every year we do a burning bowl, and I give some kind of talk about letting go, releasing, bringing in the new. And this year I noticed that I had slightly different words I wanted to use. Instead of releasing and letting go, I wanted to focus my message on this phrase, giving away. Giving away the past, making way for the emerging present. Because I want to talk about giving away versus letting go. So I'm thinking about sometimes when I'm letting go of things, I am, clinging with every ounce of strength as somebody, to whatever it is that I'm trying to let go of. Like, well, I'm releasing it, Whereas if I'm giving, I'm freely giving something. All new creations need some air, some space, and some room to become. So I was trying to think of a metaphor, and I'm like, okay, so if there's a box full of old newspapers, how do you get anything new in it? You have to get the old newspapers out. And so I said, this is a terrible metaphor. I need a better metaphor. And luckily, I was a little bit inspired. I went to 3 spiritual teachers. I went to the New Testament. This is from Matthew. He called a little child to him and placed the child among them, and he said, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever takes the lowly position of this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven." So here's some points that I know from doing lots of metaphysical Bible study. When we talk about the kingdom of heaven, in unity, we usually talk about kingdom consciousness. So kingdom of heaven is about our uplifted consciousness, our Christ consciousness. So ask yourself, what is it about a little child that would get me more open to Christ consciousness? Well, little children are innocent. They're new, right? They're new. They have the ability to see things with fresh eyes because they haven't seen it before. If you were lucky enough to be around a little kid anytime this year, for any of the holidays, you probably got to see, and if you have friends who are nice enough to post their little things on Facebook for us, you got to see a few little kids look excited about whatever it was, a present, a toy, Santa, whatever, with fresh eyes. So each experience can be new. So the instruction here is for us to be as new, to look at things with fresh eyes. It's one perspective about giving away. I also turned to the Tao Te Ching. This is the reading. Empty your mind of all thoughts. Let your heart be at peace. Watch the turmoil of beings, but contemplate their return. Each separate being in the universe returns to the common source. Returning to the source is serenity. Well, empty your mind of all thoughts. That seems like a simple instruction, and we all know how not easy that is. But there's a goal. Let your heart be at peace. Watch the turmoil of beings. Well, beings can be other people. Watch the other people with their turmoil. Beings can also be the turmoil of the beings inside us, the thoughts in our head, some of those thoughts that we're trying to empty our mind. And they can also be us, the turmoil of us, the turmoil of any of these thoughts that are running around in there. And then here's the peaceful part. Each being returns to source. So each being returns to source, all that is, the one God, the one presence. And all our thoughts, if we're thinking about giving, we can give these turmoil, like, so I've got some turmoil thoughts in my head. Well, if I'm just going to say no more turmoil thoughts, from long experience, I know that's not going to work. But if I know that everything's going to return to the source, it might work for me to say, okay, source, okay, Christ, okay, God, okay, Buddha, I'm going to give you these. Here I am going to freely give you these thoughts. Here they are. They're going around. They're making me crazy. I am giving them to you. Could work. It's a good metaphor. And then from the teacher Pema Chodron. He teaches a Buddhist, American Buddhism. She talks about a concept called bodhicitta, which I have talked about before. And it is a practice of having an awakened heart. Okay, bodhicitta means awakened heart. And the awakened heart has 3 qualities. Number 1, the awakened heart is soft and gentle, which is compassion. So we want to cultivate compassion in our awakened heart. At the same time, it is clear and sharp. Number 3, it is open. So this last quality of the awakened heart is called shunyata and is also known as emptiness. So openness, emptiness. Emptiness sounds cold. However, bodhicitta isn't cold at all because there is the soft and gentle compassion and a heart quality that pervades this space. The points, the metaphor here, the vision, the teaching is we want to have an awakened heart. You know, we're looking at the empty box, you know, and we are cultivating compassion. This compassion doesn't seem to fill the box so nothing else can get in. It's not an interesting aspect of compassion. So here's your heart and you have compassion. That's not going to keep anything necessary out. So we want to keep being loving and warm, especially when we contemplate changing any aspect of ourselves. You know, Craig talked about New Year's resolutions, and we are definitely in a spiritual practice of letting something go. So we're talking about changing a part of ourselves. So especially when we're talking about letting something go, we want to cultivate the compassion and the warmth and the love. Keep that in mind. And we want to be better, right? Our goal is that we want to be better, so we must remember to be loving. And the other quality, this is interesting quality, clear and sharp, which let your yes be yes and your no be no. Clarity is kind, and clarity will help us. So we want to, whatever we're letting into our box, our awakened heart, we want to be clear about. We want to be yes this, no that. Clarity will help us. And then this last aspect, the open emptiness, making space. The space of meditation. It's the spaciousness of possibility. The space of the end of an old year and the promise of a new one. Now, here is the contrasting idea that seemed like a new idea to me. It's probably not that new. But it hit me afresh this year. So when we're talking about giving away these things, these parts of ourselves, I'm not talking about like getting your warts burned off, right? I'm not talking about surgery or radiation to get rid of cancer, right? That is not the metaphor we want to use. We don't want to change ourselves in that way. Instead, it is as if we are making a gift back to the universe. How about this? One of the things I'm going to write on my sheet of paper is clutter. Because I have a lot of stuff. I have actual physical stuff. I've lived here 10 years, and yet I have managed to put a lot of stuff in that basement. It seems really important, like a whole lot of, like 2 years worth of saving toilet paper rolls for art projects. And stuff like that. So I have a lot of that. And I also have other kinds of clutter. I have the clutter in my mind. I have a little bit of clutter sometimes in what I've been eating lately. You know, let's just say maybe some of the stuff I'm eating is more clutter than awesomely nourishing food. Anyway, that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna give an example of how am I gonna make a gift back to the universe with this clutter. Well, first of all, I'm going to contemplate it. I'm going to sit with it a little bit. And I'm going to say, I'm ready to give this back because I believe that I have learned what I needed to learn from it. Well, what are some of the things I've learned? I learned that clutter is an interesting way for me to avoid what's really going on. Having clutter is, for example, clutter in the room I like to call the art room. If there's too much stuff in that room, there is no art that's going to happen in there. I need to get stuff out of that room, and I laugh at myself because at first I started making the basement art room, but I just don't like the basement. Then I had to make a little room upstairs, and I kept the stuff in the basement, and I would bring up stuff to do the art. Well, then I kept bringing up stuff into the room to do, and so if you looked at that room, you would just laugh, because it is not an art room. It is sort of an art closet. So, so what is the lesson from that? What is the lesson? And if I really take it deep, like take a deep dive with it. And I've just done a few surface dives, and I'm not going to go all the way down to the core of my being today with you. But some of the things might be like, oh, well, what are my fears about this? Why do I want to have stuff in the way of being creative? What is it that I might be afraid to express? I'm afraid that I'm not going to paint this good enough, or, you know, what is it? What is it? So I get to spend a little time with that. And if which I do, sincerely believe that I am ready to release clutter, for example, then I want to get a little prayerful and say, thank you for what you've taught me about myself. Thank you for showing me a way that this is a way I avoid some things. And I'm going to be loving about it, and I'm even going to like myself in the middle of it, and yet I'm going to be willing to take the dive deep enough so that I actually do remove some of the clutter when it feels not like a burden, and when I have, you know, when the energy comes, and that I will need to release it. I will need to release it. I will need to give it. I said release, but what I really need to do is return it to source. So here, universe, I'm ready to surrender this and give it to you and see what happens. Now, remember to ask for help. So you're about to get some time to write things on pieces of paper and spend a little time meditating or thinking about what you want to give away. And then you get to play with fire, which somebody's going to come up and start a fire soon, I hope. And like I said, the best fire. And make this beautiful symbol that the universe is going to help us with. So we're going to ask for spiritual help right now. On behalf of all of us, we are now open to all the spiritual help that is available for us. And there's a lot. And all the spiritual help that is available in this room for ourselves and each other. And we are going to appreciate everything that whatever we're going to give away has brought into our frequency, and we're going to be ready to let it go. So here's some questions. First of all, let's make sure I have some beautiful assistants who are going to give paper and pens if you need it. And be succinct, if you can be succinct about something. But here's some questions while you're thinking about it. I'm going to ask you to take a little deep dive. What things are in my life that are just habit, and I don't want or need them? Anybody need something, raise your hand, and someone will give you paper or a pen. What things are in my life that are just habit, maybe? I don't want them or need them. What situations am I tired of and ready to move on from? What situations am I tired of, ready to move on? What things in my life bring up feelings of anger? What is it that I could give away instead of anger so that I would be feeling peace? What things in my life feel overwhelming to me and I no longer want to fight or wrestle or hold out against? So know this, you can't pick the wrong thing. Because whatever you pick to take into this little dive with will be perfect and will lead to what is an aspect of yourself that you get to engage with that you want to give away. So I want you to take your time and come up with what you have. And as you come up with something, you can, I'm going to let Dan give a demonstration. So for a minute, look up. This is what you're going to do with your piece of paper. It's a complex two-part fire. Okay. And we'll be up there with buckets of water. Actually, and then after you do that, I've got a basket of affirmations I'm going to hold, and you can take an affirmation. When you're done, you can take an affirmation, and it can be something you want for the next year. So just take your time, and we're going to give you all the time you need. Oh, so how much fun was that? Now, the next step, if you have created this beautiful space, will be to choose something. So I'm letting go of clutter. I haven't done the process yet, but some of us like to pick a word for the year. And what I've done is put Reverend David Alt's list of values on the website. If you go to the web page, on the home page, there's something called Sunday Extras. You click on that, and there's Sunday Extras from various Sundays. The first thing you'll find is these list of attributes. He has tons of them. Things like adventure, imagination, diversity, drive, and so on and so on. There's maybe a couple hundred words that if you are interested, and you also spend a little time asking yourself, the next question is, what do you want? What do you want for your beautiful space? What do you want for your spiritual life, your social life, your work life, your physical life, your mental life, your make the world a better place life? And we get to spend time answering that question. And the words help you. Also, some people find the random affirmation they picked up has some special meaning for them. And if you picked up an affirmation that you really don't like, well, you better pay really good attention to that. But you can also trade it in for another one. There's lots of affirmations, and if you want a few extra affirmations, go ahead. There's full in the basket. And have fun. Have fun filling up that beautiful space. Remember to keep the compassion going from those three great teachers: Jesus Christ, Lao Tzu, and Pema Children. We have visions of how we can give what we want, what we are done learning with, back to all that is with peace, love, and joy. So I think we get to enjoy the coolest fire that ever is in any Unity church for the rest of this morning, and take an offering for Unity. We'll say our affirmation, then we'll get to listen to some more beautiful music. So it's our time to give some cash, credit, good wishes to Unity Center of Des Moines. And we'll say it with this affirmation here. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies